Hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. So this is going to be the state of the Empire for turn 73. It is a little bit of random timing, I suppose you could say. Due to the fact that the turn is not yet done. Though I had some things I wanted just to go over, really, just for everybody's benefit and my own, really. It's always good to just, yeah. Always talk through things. If not for others, then for yourself. Because it helps you to sound out like logical arguments and really check if what you're doing is right. So it has been quite with turbulent times as of late, I suppose you could say. We do achieve victory in Henyang. Now that is a victory that was unexpected to say the very least. It's one that I didn't expect personally to be anywhere near as total. Is how I would describe it. I don't think anybody really had dared dream that victory could be as total as we saw there upon the battlefields of Henyang. Now, the interesting question is, how do we proceed? And that's not a question I can entirely answer. That is a question that THG, my respected opponent, must answer as well. I don't have all the answers here. I meant to zoom in there. But we can work with what we've got. We can figure things out. And try to make some good deductions. Now, I hope this records properly. But as you can see, we have our victory at Henyang. And it's going to play, there we go, oops. Doesn't seem to like this view terribly much, but that's fine. Now, we are going to push on towards Xiaoyang, which would be this city over here. We have 9 out of 10 detection here. And now there is a little bit of light industry over here, but overall it's not worth a tremendous amount to the allies, but it is worth about 20 to us. Which, you know, I'm happy about. The thing to bear in mind in regard to the area that we now find ourselves holding is these are major roads. We see the forces of the allies, the Chinese armies here, are potentially pulling back from Changsha and from Maichang. We see forces moving, and it looks like they're moving in 2 directions here. He may be looking to shore up the garrison of Quailin. He may be looking towards sending forces over here to the north to deal with the paratroopers at Taeyong. Which I would expect, to say the very least. I suppose my question comes down to now. We are going to push him here. We're going to take the divisions that are of good strength and we're going to push them forward alongside armor. Those divisions could do with rest, they could do without recuperation. But we can't stand idle. We can't remain in place. If we remain in place, then we will see tomorrow the forces from Changsha arrive here at Shangtan. Not that that's a tremendously bad thing. It really does depend on what our respected foe does here. There are currently 26 units at Changsha. How many will he pull out? How many will he leave at Changsha? Will he leave any at Changsha? I'm inclined to say that he will pull perhaps most, or perhaps it is a difficult one to say really, because he's currently heading to Shangtan. And the question is, will that order change? I think it will. I think he may send forces to Shangtan, but I'm really not entirely convinced. I feel he may instead send his forces to the north towards Changtai. But the issue is, that leaves him in really something of a predicament here. He really has 2 choices here. Well, I suppose technically 3, but the third one we'll discuss afterwards. The first choice is that he continues his movement to Shangtan. The issue with that is, okay, he moves to Shangtan. Now, what then? Does he move on towards Xiaoyang? Is it Xiaoyang? I think it's Xiaoyang. Xiaoyang. Shangtan to Xiaoyang. Really names that. And he could do that. It's major roads. The issue is that brings him then into a conundrum. Is he going to march all the way onto Chikyang? I don't think so. I think what may happen tomorrow is, I think we may see him cancel his movement perhaps, or at least send a portion of the forces from Changsha to Shangtan. I think potentially to shore up the defences there. But I think what our greatest team foe must do here is potentially march north to Changde to avoid us. I think that's really his way out there. What intrigues me is the fact that we see his forces from Aichang moving. Though we don't know how much of the forces of Aichang are moving there towards the south, towards Changde. He may send a portion. And luckily for us, it will take him some time, due to the fact that, well, he's marching currently on Major Road. He will then be marching upon Secondary Road, which is going to take some time, but afterwards then it is indeed Major Road. I feel that previously he had felt more secure, and that is a completely understandable statement, because previously, the term before, minutes before we saw the actual results of the battle, I would not have said we would have had this. So we find ourselves in a situation here where his choices are potentially to try to counterattack, which he might be able to do. It depends really on his supply level. It's a very risky stratagem, because he could very easily run himself dry of supply and find himself in a position of just being bullied by our forces here in the Changsha area. I don't seek to destroy his armies, I seek to contain them. And I think what might prove fatal for the Chinese armies here in China is, does he assume us to intend to destroy these forces? I don't intend to destroy them, I intend to contain them. The objective is Chongqing. It must always be Chongqing. If Chongqing falls, then China falls with it. Whether quickly, whether slowly, it will fall. So there's one of the options there discussed. A potential counterattack. Now the second... Now, I suppose I could clarify on the counterattack option. Should he continue his movement towards Shangtan, we are going to be moving towards Xiaoyang. That is going to inevitably draw us into combat. But I don't think he's going to do that. Looking at the actual road outlay here, well, just the roads here, I just don't think it would be wise. He may feel that he can defeat us with all his forces, but the thing is, he's going to have to leave something at Changsha if the city falls to us. And if he thinks this situation's bad now, imagine the 5,000 additional forces, well, 5,000 additional assault value that could cross at Changsha. And the thing is, at Changsha we do have far more in the way of artillery and far more in the way of engineers. We do have hundreds of tanks approaching from the south that will arrive imminently. He's in a sticky situation, and there's really only one way for him to get out, and that is towards marching towards Changde. So that would be the second option, but he marches towards Changde. At least then he has the ability to potentially retreat. We do have our forces at Chikyang. The thing is, those forces, they do well to hold Chikyang. That's fine. But by holding Chikyang and Taeyun, we do close two of the roads, but there are still two more roads that are open. He's not going to be drained of supply, per se. He will find his supply a little bit harder to come by. But the issue is, the way supply works in this situation now is, each battle really could be another nail in the coffin if he's not careful. And I think if he's careful, he's going to seek to avoid battle. So I think my third option is, he's going to just go for a general retreat. I think he might have his forces at Xiaoyang, potentially withdraw to Shangtan, to Changsha, to Changde. So this third option, and I think it would be the option that I think you would have to choose here. The road north to Chikyang is potentially open, but it is a potentially fraught road. if that's the correct terminology. He can march there, and he can march into the Times 3, but the issue is, if he marches towards Chikyang, true, he can take it, but the thing is, well, we will be on his heels. And if he doesn't take Chikyang on the first go, which he probably would, it would be a shock attack due to the river. But he's going to get there first, and we can move faster than him with the armor. So it really does become something of an issue. I suppose there's a fourth option, but I'll continue to explain a third option. So I think in the third option, he might retreat all his forces towards Shangtan into Changsha, and then from Changsha to Changde. I think that would be his way to potentially get out unscathed. Though it is a very, I don't know, he may... Okay, we'll go for the fourth option then. So the fourth option is one that I'm conceptualizing right now. So he'll leave his forces at Xiaoyang, potentially. He'll leave his forces at Shangtan. His forces at Changsha will cancel their march. He will leave a good, strong majority of them at Changsha. And he will send the forces available to march towards Changde. He will then have his forces march down south from Aichang to potentially strengthen that. I think he will potentially either go for a massed withdrawal as quickly as possible and try to save as much as possible. I think the thing is, he has to recognize that if he engages in battle, he isn't gonna last. But to be honest, none of this really matters. The option that we choose here is the option that brings us towards Chungking. We look to contain his forces. We don't bother to destroy them. We let themselves be destroyed by the lack of supply. And the strategic positioning failures, I suppose you could say there, that lies in that. So that's an interesting... there's a lot of things to be considered here. I'm going to be putting pressure upon Aichang. I have pressure upon Nanning. There's only one unit over here. It looks like many units marching out from Luzhao. Guilin potentially may stay as it is. We will have the 38th Division arrive here tomorrow. I will probably send the 38th Division towards Hengyang to give us additional forces to begin with. But the 38th Division will in time, or as soon as possible, be withdrawn to Canton to be shipped over to Malaya to aid in the destruction of Singapore, really. The armor, I believe I will have repurposed. Now, I was discussing this with Infinite Monkey. And what we're going to do is actually have one of the armored car companies instead travel to Xiaoyang, like so. Notice that resets the movement, but if I set all here to march, so all to follow, notice they retain their movement. But rather than wasting their movement as they move through the hexes, because they're moving 60 miles per day, but if they only march to this hex over here, then that ends their movement. So if they move from here and into Hengyang, and if they were not to continue to Xiaoyang, that would be the end of their movement. But if they continue towards Xiaoyang, when they move into this hex, they will have some movement left over. So therefore they will arrive at Xiaoyang sooner. So that's an idea that we're going to be going for. Again, pressure here. The air transportation assets will be moved, at least a good majority will be moved from Hankow to Langson. I will be looking at dropping supply potentially on these units, or potentially dropping additional units in these bases potentially. Now, Taiyun is potentially the most viable candidate for reinforcements, as it would be the one where he has limited means to respond here. Ideally, I want to hold both of these bases as long as I possibly can to allow our forces to reach this area. It may be more prudent to reinforce Chikyang, but I think Taiyun might be the one worth reinforcing. It's a tough one to decide upon, really. A little bit of damage there to runway, which is interesting. But yes. Unfortunately, we do have our forces over here that, for some reason, ended up in this hex. As much as I would hope, well, as much as I wish it would have not happened, it is what it is. It's going to take a long time to do really anything now. It's going to delay us by 10 days. It kind of buggers other plans over here in Nanyang. But what we'll probably do then is either march south or we'll march on Nanyang. I do have 2 infantry brigades over here. I'm going to have both of them sent down this way. I'll play the shell game, move some assets to Luoyang to secure Luoyang. But yeah, that's what we'll have to do. I may look for another force in Manchuria to potentially move, but we'll see. We do have additional forces to move. Now, as far as it goes in the Philippines, I'm happy, I'm more than happy for him to attack as a battalion. Each attack, each bombardment is a futile waste of his effort. Each bombardment brings him another day closer to surrender. So I'm happy for that to happen. He can continue as much as he pleases. That's fine. I'm going to be taking the engineers from Luzon and the artillery from Luzon and having it shipped out to Malaya to bring down Singapore. In Mindanao, we will concentrate on taking out the garrison of Cagayan. Once that surrenders, then we will take the rest of these islands and quickly accelerate our invasions. I do have additional men over here at Babaldwab, so what I will be doing then, as we do have assets in the area now, is I will look to take additional men from 65th Brigade and take additional bases in this area as soon as possible. We will be looking towards concluding the battle for Ambon. I do need additional supply to arrive, potentially even additional men, but supply will be the first and foremost requirement. We're going to continue to bombard Ambon with our battleships. We do have a actual air headquarters at Babaldwab. We need to figure out where we're going to deploy it. I think what we do need to do now is figure out how to make the Dutch East Indies defensible. It would be potentially nice to have maybe an air headquarters somewhere around this area, but it's not exactly a great area. We do have a air flotilla that can cover this area. Actually, no, a air headquarters that covers this area over here to make that formidable. It may be potentially worthwhile to place one in these islands, maybe, if we were to take something on Java. But for the most part, I don't have a great position to place it right now. So it might be worthwhile to consider Celebes, perhaps, or maybe elsewhere. Potentially even some of these areas, but I'm not entirely sold. The construction assets will be moved from Babaldwab, and I will be moving the actual construction assets from Luganville to elsewhere, potentially. I may go ahead and construct some fortifications, but I'm not entirely sold on that. I think we might need to look towards building up facilities elsewhere, especially in the chain of islands over here. It may be that we have the air headquarters potentially moved to one of these island chains, make that more defensible. It would not do bad to have one potentially in this area. We do have the headquarters against Mart, which is very effective, but it wouldn't be bad ideas to have something like that. We'll see. We do have plenty of islands, we do have plenty of opportunities, we just need to figure out how best to contain and protect ourselves here. So with that, we're going to up the amount of bombers hitting Singapore. I do have plenty more bombers over here, and they will be hitting Singapore every single goddamn day now. We will bring this to an end. It's been a complete shit show here in this series due to my poor efforts at taking Singapore. But lessons have been learned, and Singapore will fall, albeit at a delayed rate, but it will fall. These submarines will continue to linger in the area for some time longer before they're withdrawn to Balikpapan to be refueled, rearmed. Now, I will look towards potentially maintaining just one or two submarines in this area, but I will be looking towards sending submarines to this area over here in the Andaman Sea. I'm going to be looking towards bringing air power from China, namely potentially one K-43 squadron and the Zero squadron, potentially more in the future. But the long-range bombers will be brought over here to Thailand. I will be withdrawing the Yokosuka 3rd SLF in time. I may have them finish being flown over here to Taeyeon, and then potentially have them flown out, and then potentially have them made ready to land at Port Blair to seize Port Blair from the dreaded foe. We will be looking towards shutting down Rangoon to potentially exacerbate his supply problems in China. Submarines over here will be additional. We will have additional submarines around here in the near future. And we're going to be looking at how to deploy our submarines in the future as well, just to how to potentially make more use of them. I think potentially focus on key shipping lanes might be potentially more useful. We do have the H6K4s. I would like to try and increase the amount of naval search that we have in these areas and try to strengthen it as much as possible. Now, I will try to endeavour to have more accurate information of these islands. That's going to be something that's going to be in the works. We did detect what might be a... Well, we have detected this group for some time. This group has been located here today. Now, I did have two H6K4s that were operational, but they were moved down to Wake Island. I will have a H6K4 operational tomorrow, but I'm going to be relying upon the actual submarine floatplane aboard the I-15 to actually do the reconnaissance for us. Reconnaissance in force, I suppose you could say, in the fact of the actual submarines potentially engaging. We had a report here indicating maybe, what was it, I think it might have been about 12 or 13 knots, which actually coincides with the actual US standard BB cruise speed, which is about 12 knots. So that is potentially good news. Now, what we're doing here to react to that is we are going to have the combined fleet move in such a way as to be 21 hexes from Johnson Island. But what we may do then is, upon confirmation of what these targets might be, is we might look towards moving at full speed towards this area here. The reason being that we could bring down the minor combined fleet on potentially valuable American battleship standards. Well, standard battleships. We do have Shoho on the move as well from Marcus Island, I believe it is. Yeah, from Marcus. Now, it is interesting. What we may do then is move over here into this area of the Pacific afterwards. It really does depend on what we do find. We still have the assets down here. We do have the Minikitapatai, which is only a few days out now from track. They'll be arriving here the night and then potentially making their way on. So they could potentially arrive here tomorrow or the day after. But, Minikitapatai will be arriving on truck in the near future, very near future. So 2 days at absolute most. So that's good news. So then they will rendezvous with the Karga and Akagi. We do have Mutsu over here, which is in good condition. Nagato. He's under repair. There's only 19 system damage to repair here, and that's estimated at 20 days. So the interesting aspects here of this campaign now. Look, Furataka will be ready in 3 days. That's very good. Katori and Kakao will have to be addressed, really. I'll have to see what I can do for them. So, in about 1 to 2 days, we'll have the Minikitapatai reinforced by Karga and Akagi. The combined fleet will be heading towards what might be potentially juicy targets. If it's not juicy targets, they will head back down south and then look towards the original plan. We do have the incredible flexibility available to us that we do not normally have, or would not normally have, in the form of the Oilers being established at Marcus, in the form of the Oilers being established over here at Baker Island. So I will potentially consider, I will more than likely go ahead with the raids over on these islands. I may actually use a H6K force to try and get an idea of what's on these islands before we go ahead. I think it might be worthwhile to do this to try and destroy any potential aircraft over here, as we still may come through this area with combined fleet. It remains to be seen, really. So this plan will continue, and it could really provoke some interesting responses. It's an interesting move that he's going for right now. I do expect him to be going for a bombardment as he has done in the past, but in the past we were able to punish him for that. So we're going to continue to do that. So, thank you so very much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and I hope to see you again in the future. If you guys have enjoyed it as well, please do consider subscribing if you're new to the channel. Commenting down below what you reckon, which options you think the Chinese may in fact go for, and please do consider becoming a patron of mine. That really does help me out considerably. And I tell you what, with university potentially looming this year, yeah, it would be really, really helpful. So I'm not entirely sure which university I'm going to be going to, if indeed I do get the chance to go to one. But the ones I'm looking at would require probably moving out, so it's going to be difficult to try and have a time and then potentially taking a job and studies as well, so we'll see. It really does mean a lot to do this, and I do appreciate each and every one of you for watching. It's been a fantastic series so far, and it's one that will continue. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.